back to Shaw Spotlight. I'm here with co-founder and artistic director for TryLight Theatre Company, Gord Day-Janz. And today we're talking all about TryLight. Gord, congratulations on celebrating 30 years of TryLight. That's amazing. And I see you dressed for the occasion.
Yes, I have my hoodie on, and I do have just off here. I can show everybody the lovely masks that we now wear as well, as we go about this COVID infested city of ours, so we can promote TryLight Theatre Company.
Well, that's really good. And how does it make you feel having reached this milestone with TryLight?
You know, it's interesting because I think when we got started, it never sort of crossed our minds that that's what we were doing, that we were starting a theater company that would last for 30 years. And I kind of think that, for a community theater to be able to exist, but not just exist, to actually thrive for 30 years, it makes me proud, obviously, and excited to be a part of it. But I have to say, it's also quite humbling. I mean, there have been so many people who have given their time and talent to help us reach this milestone, and it's very humbling, the amount of talent that people have and that they're willing to share it so freely. And so I mean, I think it's mixed emotions. And then of course, you throw in COVID into the mix, and we can't do the things that we do. So there's also a little bit of sadness thrown in with that as well.
Well, I think it's amazing to see that support from the community, especially with TryLight being volunteer run.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's a volunteer. We give them raises every year, and they appreciate that. But you're right. It's all volunteer, and particularly through a show, people are giving amazing amounts of hours to make it work. And then, of course, the staff that we have that work behind the scenes, in between shows, our board, all of those people are working all year long, and we have amazing staff. I really have to say, I'm not quite sure how we've managed to get them to say yes, but we're ever so grateful that they have.
That's amazing. What are some of the things you're doing to celebrate 30 years of TryLight?
Well, we had a whole bunch of things, I think, that we were planning on doing. We had some galas, I think, that we were going to do, and then of course COVID intervened and shut it all down. We're still hoping, although we don't know what this latest shutdown is going to do to it, but we're still hoping that our exhibit at the museum will happen in June and July. Lynn Hawley, our marketing director, has really been doing a great job using social media as well as more traditional media to make sure that people know that we're here, that we're celebrating 30 years. But there's very little that we can actually do. Not for the 30th year, but we've been playing a little bit with our new technology for streaming and videoing, and we've done a couple of or three virtual events, just to experiment with that. But that's also happening in our 30th year, so we're kind of excited about that. But again, it's been sort of one frustration on top of another, as things seem to be getting better, and then they get shut down again. And so we're trying to manage our expectations. We are sort of hoping that we will be able to actually do a show this fall. We just don't know what it's going to look like.
Yeah, that's tough with COVID, everything shutting down. And I know you mentioned the museum. What will that exhibit look like if it does happen?
Well, it's a storytelling exhibit, but it's also very visual, and I think that's appropriate because those are sort of the two elements of theater: telling story and being visual. Um, we're also trying to raise the curtain on what people don't see, sort of the behind the scenes stuff that people won't know is happening because our crew and our cast are so good at hiding it. So we're raising that curtain a little bit, telling some stories about what happens backstage and some of the funny things that have happened. Our set elves have created a number of set pieces that show people how we've taken our small stage and make it seem bigger than what it really is. Um, and we had really hoped that it might be hands on, but that's obviously not going to happen now. We had also hoped to have some evening events, some live evening events where we talk about theater, where we introduce people to some of our backstage people, behind the scenes people, and we don't know now if that's possible either. Um, but great pictures. There's a uh, uh, there's part of the exhibit that uh, asks a series of questions and gives you a multiple choice answers, and you choose the answer, and then you can flip something over and it tells you the answer, and it's all geared to pictures. And um, we've been very, very blessed that our graphic designer Patty Nelson agreed to donate her time to create all of the visual stuff. Very, very grateful for that. And the museum staff has just been amazing with the ideas that they've had, and the work that they've put into it. I think I think if it goes ahead, people will just have fun with it because it's a very fun exhibit.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I'm excited to see it. And you've been a part of TryLight since the beginning. Why do you love theater?
Oh dear, um, that's a big question. Um, I think I think first of all, we all love stories, right? We love to hear stories. We love to tell stories. But theater doesn't just tell a story. Because the story is told with flesh and blood people, it actually brings the audience into the story, um, and really, in some sense, the audience actually becomes another character in the story. And I say that because how the audience responds to the story um, really makes a difference in how the actors tell the story. I mean, the blocking doesn't change that, but the energy sometimes changes, and um, so I think I love that interaction between what's on stage with the artists and the audience. But theater is also multidisciplined. Um, it includes all sorts of artisans, all sorts of people to help tell the story. I mean, you have costumers, set builders, makeup, hair, lights, sound, painters, house staff, graphic artists, marketing people, vocal coaches, dance, choreography. I mean, it really is a huge multidisciplined art, and you bring all those people together to tell a specific story, and it creates this amazing community of people that are so diverse and are so talented. And I guess that's sort of really the big thing is that theater is community. Without community, um, particularly a community that's built on trust, and focused on telling a story in the most meaningful way possible. You don't really have a show. So community, how that community builds, sometimes it builds fast, sometimes it's a little slower, sometimes there's pain involved, but a community is built, and people are all focused on doing their job to make sure that we tell the story properly. And I love that about theater. And then I think for me personally, I'm not just the artistic director of TryLight Theater Company. I'm also the pastor of First Baptist Church, and I think for me there's this spiritual side to theater. We get to create a new world every time we do a production. I mean, literally, we get to speak a word, and the set elves go and they start building a world, and then we populate that world with people that live in that world and interact with other characters. And in that safe environment, we get to explore difficult and unsafe and sometimes dangerous circumstances and find the humanity in them, and find hope in them, and find joy in them. And it just when it works, when it all begins to click and it all falls together, and you have an audience that is responding the way you have designed the play to have them respond, there's nothing quite like it.
That's amazing. Well, I can see your passion for it for sure.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's challenging. It's fun, um, and there's just, and I'm sure if I thought about it a little longer, there would be X number of other things. And you would talk to anybody else, and they would all have different things that make theater uh, uh, important to them.
Well, even when you were talking about community, I thought that's so true, especially because if you have your own art form that you like, well, here's TryLight bringing people together who you might not have met in your
Yeah,
everyday life.
yeah, yeah. It's very, very true. Um, and people connect that way, and all of a sudden friendships start springing up, and uh, you know that collaboration is really, really important, um, and just makes it all that much more. I mean, you have people who just normally, like you say, normally in their everyday life would probably never get together, and here they're thrown together, and all of a sudden, there's friendships and community that happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what's also great about TryLight is you have the opportunity for families to work together on productions. I know you've been on stage with your daughters.
Yes, I once. It was It's a Wonderful Life, the radio show, which um, we had to put together very, very quickly. Um, and it just so happened that my oldest daughter was still in town. She was, I think, at that point in the process of leaving, but was still here. And my youngest daughter had been involved in a couple of our shows, but I had directed them, both of them, but we had never been on stage together, and so this was an opportunity to do that, and I'm grateful for that. And we've had, when we did Music Man, there was a family where the kid's mother brought them to auditions because the kids wanted to audition, and the kids all got a part. Um, and we needed an adult male who could sing, and Dad happened to happened to come to an audition, and we just took him and threw him up on stage, and he ended up getting cast, and that meant that the whole family was going to be there anyway. So we were still looking for a production manager for the show, and Nadine was a very, very capable uh, uh, individual with managing things, and so we asked her to be production manager, and uh, it had such a huge impact on that family. just to be together. So we love doing that. We love putting families together, particularly parents and kids. I love doing that.
Well, it's certainly a great opportunity for families. And I remember for Iolanthe, you had 3 generations
Yeah,
in the one play for a family.
yeah,
So that's pretty
yeah.
cool.
It was. It was very cool.
So, how many productions has TryLight done, and how many have you been a part of?
That's a really hard question to answer. I think we're somewhere around 63. I think Annie was going to be our 64th. Um, and I haven't actually ever counted it up. I think I've probably been part of, at the very least, half of them, maybe even more, in one way or another. Sometimes not huge involvement, but but involvement in one way or another. And if I haven't actually been involved, I've been there taking pictures.
Well, that's amazing. And how did you first come up with the idea to start TryLight?
TryLight started um, as a way, interestingly enough, to raise the profile of First Baptist Church in the community, just to let people know that we were alive and well. Um, and I think that's why Linda Longe and I, who started TryLight Theatre Company together, I don't think that we ever had in our minds that this was going to be uh, an ongoing thing. We just were going to start a theater company to let the community know that we were here and invite the community to express themselves in one way or another. And I mean, we've certainly moved forward from that initial motivation, um, and I think we quickly moved from that profile raising thing to wanting to give people uh, a safe community to be a part of, to express themselves in all sorts of different ways. But very humble beginnings. Actually, there's pre-TryLight stuff that we were experimenting with. It was a lot of fun. We would do the church would do Christmas musicals that were intergenerational, and most of them were more silly than they were profound. But we had a lot of fun doing them, and so I mean the church actually has a bit of a history of doing theatrical stuff. It didn't sort of come out of the blue. Um, I think it's sort of been a part of the church, at least since they've moved into the building that we're in now, simply because of the stage downstairs.
Well, I remember you even telling me that when you first started to see how much people knew about the church, you went across the street and you asked them where the church was, and they didn't know.
They didn't know. Yeah, that's right. It was a little bit shocking. Actually, it wasn't me who did that. It was a parishioner of mine, um, and I apologize for my dog barking upstairs. It was a parishioner of mine who went to the Shell station and asked if they knew where First Baptist was, and they had no idea. Uh, and you know what? I wonder if we did that now, if people would know. Um, I don't know that has changed. Although I think if you would ask a lot of people if they knew where TryLight was, they would know it was at First Baptist Church. So I guess we succeeded in our initial motivation.
Yeah, that's true. And TryLight's certainly come a far way. So, what are some of the changes you've seen over the years?
Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of changes. I mean, our stage was probably a third of the size it was now when we when we first started, because there were actually rooms behind, uh, at the back of the stage. So we've seen our stage probably triple in size. Um, Maybe that's an exaggeration, but it certainly doubled in size from what initially was. When we first started, we were using do-it-yourself lighting that was cobbled together, and now we have a fairly complex tech room system to run lights and sound. Um, we've added a hearing assist system. Um, we moved from just being a theater to being a nonprofit charitable organization. Um, we have developed an effective board, a very, very talented board who keep us true to uh, our vision and our mission. Um, so many changes. I mean, the raised seating, which we really haven't been able to use yet, um, was huge for us. A new sound system that's amazing. Um, New streaming capability. All this technology that when we started was was being hinted at, but wasn't a reality yet. And in 30 years, we've come so far. I mean, we now have the capability of showing our shows literally around the world. If people want to dial in, it's stunning.
Yeah, that's so amazing. What a great idea to have the live stream option because I'm from Southern Ontario and I did sound and lighting for one of your productions, and my parents couldn't come watch it because it was too far, but now they could watch it for next time.
Yeah, and I mean, we have so many people who have family who are. I mean, I have my family is all outside of Kenora, and they're all interested in what we're doing, and now we have that capability. Now, whether um, whether the publishing companies will give us streaming rights, I think increasingly they will. Um, that's another question, but we have the capability of inviting people again, literally from around the world. If you've got an internet connection, you can connect, and we've also added. We're the only venue in town that uh, that that sells the seat. Like it's not just general seating. You get to pick your seat. You can sit where you want to sit. Um, uh, so reserved seating with I think we were the first venue to offer online purchasing as well, and we very quickly went from selling all of our tickets at a ticket booth somewhere to probably selling 75% of our tickets online. Uh, so just big changes. It's been it's been good, and I mean we've learned a lot as well. We've learned our craft so that um, when we stage shows, we're a little more. Uh, we understand the craft a little better, so that's changed as well, and I think the quality of our shows has increased because of that. You did you did lighting and sound for A Man for All Seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the shows that I have to say I'm really proud of that show. It was a huge challenge in so many different ways, and everybody rose to the occasion. And we took a very very complex, difficult show, and and I think did a great job. Unfortunately, there were no streaming rights for that, so even had we been able to stream, your parents wouldn't have been able to see it.
Yeah. Well, I even remember for that show, about, I'd say halfway through rehearsals, you got the new sound equipment. So that was something new I
Okay.
had to learn, but I thought it was really cool. I like the new sound and lighting, and you could just like
Yeah,
program the lights right
yeah,
into the computer.
that's been great for us, and we can. I mean, because of the equipment that we're able to purchase because of our Trillium grant, we can run both the lights and the streaming software off from the same computer, and um, it's pretty slick. We still haven't quite fully figured out how to do it. We will probably have to bring in people who don't go, oh, let's try this and see if this works. They will come in and go, I think we know how to do this, and show us how to do it appropriate. But even with our limited knowledge, we've been able to do some good stuff. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. So, what has TryLight been doing during COVID?
Okay, so here's the honest answer to that. We've been mostly lamenting. Um, uh, there's been very little. I mean, we've done a few virtual events. I've mentioned the videoing and streaming, and we've been playing with that and doing a few things with that, learning how that actually works. But it's been hard. I mentioned Lynn Hawley, our marketing director. She's amazing in her ideas and the things um, that she's doing to keep people interested. Um, but it's been a tough go. Uh, we've been discouraged. We've had our hopes raised and then dashed a couple of times now, and so while we're still hopeful that the spring that the fall will be open enough that we can do something, even if it's limited seating in our space. Um, we're we're trying to stay hopeful that we can do something in the fall.
So, why do you think theater and art is so important, especially in small communities like ours?
Well, I mean, I think it's important in any kind of a community, large or small. I think the arts um, provide something that satisfies us a little bit deeper than just having our physical needs satisfied. I mean, the arts tell us in creative ways who we are and challenges us, I don't know, to be who we should be. I happen to believe that every person has been created with a creative side that needs to be touched and expressed, and to be heard, and the arts do that. Um, and so I think they make living in a community just a little fuller, or a lot fuller for that matter. I mean, when was the last time you physically went to a concert, for instance? Um, I was privileged to be able to go to one last July, out on a lawn, and I didn't know the artist. But I thought, I just want to go. And I was so glad that I went, because, you were there, you were experiencing someone who's very talented, um, sharing their talent with us. And we need those things. Those are the things that make life rich. The physical things keep us alive. It's the arts that make life rich. And I think the arts is a part of that physical thing that touches people like hugs. I think the arts are sort of creative hugs that you can give to people um, that make life just a little richer and just a little fuller.
That's such a great way to look at it. Well, thanks so much, Gord, for talking to me today about TryLight Theater Company. I'm excited to one day be back at TryLight in person.
I'm excited for the day that I can see you either participating or sitting in the seats watching a show.